going to be sharing with you a Hungarian flaky scone recipe, or Pogácsa. This is a yeasted laminated dough that is cut into scone shapes, and it's eaten either with a cup of coffee or served with a meal. And they come in many different flavors. Today I'm going to be sharing 3 with you, plain with seeds, cheese, and bacon. This also begins a series that I'm going to be adding to periodically on this channel on the former Austro-Hungarian Empire coffee houses. And some of them still exist to this day, and they are grand, beautiful places to visit, and they feature a lot of beautiful baked goods along with coffee. So today I'll be showing you a coffee house in Budapest where you can buy Pogácsa, as well as show you how to make a Hungarian coffee drink called a melange. So I think you'll find this series really interesting. I hope you'll stick with me throughout. So let's get started. First, begin by putting 3 tablespoons of milk in a small bowl with 4 teaspoons of active dry yeast and a teaspoon of sugar. Stir that together and then let it sit to bloom for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, whisk together 270 grams or 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour with 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then set that aside. Once the yeast is bloomed, add in 2 egg yolks and 1/3 cup or 80 milliliters of sour cream, and then whisk that all together until smooth and set that aside. To a stand mixer fit with a whisk attachment, add your flour mixture and 115 grams or 1/2 cup of shredded, chilled, unsalted butter. Whisk that together until it resembles wet sand, and then add in the yeast mixture. If the dough doesn't come together at this point, you can add in more sour cream, a tablespoon at a time, until a smooth dough that pulls away from the sides of the bowl forms. Let it knead on medium speed for about 6 to 10 minutes or until it can pass the window pane test. Now place the dough on your work surface and using a 1-foot ruler as your guide, roll the dough until it is 12 inches or 30 centimeters long and 6 inches or 15 centimeters wide. You'll want to pull the edges of the dough to create 90-degree angles as best as you can. You're not making croissants though, so it doesn't have to be perfect and exact, but do your best to try to achieve those measurements. Once you've achieved that shape, fold the upper third down and the bottom third up to look like a letter, then turn it so the fold is vertical to you. Now roll the folded dough out to the same dimensions as the last time. Now repeat the same fold, but then fold that over onto itself, and then take your rolling pin and wrap it gently over the dough to flatten it out a bit, then wrap it in plastic wrap and refrigerate that for 30 minutes. To make these cheese flavored, you're going to reduce the powdered sugar to 2 tablespoons in the dry ingredients of the dough, and then you're going to sprinkle the dough with 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of shredded cheese before each fold. You can use any hard cheese here, but I recommend something strongly flavored because I find that cheese flavor tends to get lost during baking. I'm using a good quality Parmesan here because I don't have access to Hungarian cheese where I live. To make these bacon flavored, you're going to reduce the powdered sugar to 2 tablespoons in the dry ingredients, plus add 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Then when it's mostly finished kneading, add in 6 ounces or 170 grams of bacon that you've cooked and finely diced. So that's 6 ounces before cooking. If you want, you can swap this out for pork cracklings. That would be more traditional. I'm just unable to buy them here where I live. And then you're going to roll the dough out and perform the folds the same way as the plain dough. After each set of dough has rested in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, you're going to roll that out again to the same measurements and perform the same folds. and then wrap that up again in plastic wrap, and you're going to refrigerate it this time for 2 hours, or you can also leave it in the refrigerator overnight if that's more convenient for you. Then you're going to take the dough that's been refrigerated for 2 hours and you're going to roll it out to the same 12 by 6 dimensions again until it's about 1/2 inch thick, and then take a sharp knife and score it in a crosshatch pattern. But you'll see here I am scoring it quite deeply. Don't do that. This first batch that I rolled out turned out a little bit wonky because I scored it too deeply. So just barely strike the top with your knife and just create a very thin crosshatch pattern. Then you're going to take a cookie cutter and you're going to cut them out in whatever size you prefer. This smaller size is the slightly more traditional size, about 2.5 inches wide. Then for the cheese ones, you're going to mix together some of your shredded cheese with some black pepper and some paprika, and you're going to sprinkle that on top of each of the scones that have been washed with an egg wash before baking. Then you're going to bake them in a 400-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes. It really just depends on the size of the pogácsa that you rolled out, and let that cool on a rack, or you can also enjoy them warm. Pogácsa can be found in almost every bakery and subway station in Hungary, as the subway stations usually have small bakeries in them. They're very important in Hungarian cuisine, but they are likely to have originated elsewhere, as they are also a staple in the Balkans and the Levant. They used to be baked in the ashes of the fireplace in older times. Pogácsa are very important in both cuisine and in Hungarian culture. You often find that the protagonist in Hungarian folktales sets out on a journey carrying pogácsa in his satchel. It's also the symbol of adulthood, since a similar satchel is given to graduates to set them on their journey in life. And they're given during graduation, and they carry it with themselves throughout the day. One place you usually find them is in the coffeehouses of Budapest. One such coffee house is the Cafe Ruszwurm, the oldest running coffee house in Budapest, as it opened its doors in 1827. It had many changes to who ran it over the centuries, but it was named after Vilmos Ruszwurm, who ran it from 1884 until 1922. It's a small, cozy cafe compared to some of the grander coffee houses of Budapest, but they feature many of the same luxury desserts, such as dobos torta, Esterházy torta, kremes, rigolyánci cake, and zserbot slice. Even their own specialty cake, the Ruszwurm cake. Alongside the Austrian strudels that they feature, you'll find the pogácsa. They offer potato, cheese, and sheep's cottage cheese flavored ones. And like many other coffee houses, they have ice cream specialties and iced coffees, which is not cold coffee as you might know it, but rather coffee with ice cream in it. And on the coffee section of the menu, you will find the Hungarian melange, which is a Hungarian coffee drink made with acacia honey and steamed milk and espresso. And you don't want to confuse that with the Wiener melange, which is a Viennese coffee specialty. This one is different in that it includes honey. So I'm actually going to show you now how to make it at home. For this drink, you'll need some kind of way to make espresso. I have this little stovetop mocha pot that I bought in Italy many years ago. You fill the bottom with water and then add espresso to the coffee compartment. Then you screw on the top and then put that on the smallest burner on your stove. And as your water boils below, it will shoot espresso up through the spout. I will link some options below in the description box for ways to make espresso at home. Obviously, it can range from not very expensive to extremely expensive if you buy the full-on espresso machine with the steam wand for the milk and all of that. But it doesn't need to be that way. You can just choose something small like this for a budget option. And this is a milk frother. Just like the options for making espresso, there are many different price ranges for milk frothers. I'll link a few below. I like this one because you can choose the temperature and how much foam you would like, but you can also froth milk with an immersion blender or an electric mixer too. You might just not get as smooth of a foam with those options. So for this drink, you're going to heat and froth 200 milliliters or about 1 cup of milk. Then you're going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of Acacia honey to a tall glass. You can use any type of honey that you have on hand. However, Acacia honey is what is traditionally used because it has a very mild flavor, so it won't give the coffee an overpowering honey flavor. I will link this below. I was able to find it on Amazon. And then you're going to pour in the milk and the foam. Then you're going to take a spoon and shield the milk and pour the espresso along the edge. If you're really careful, you can make a completely separate coffee layer that isn't mixed with milk. Making it this time, I accidentally combined the two, but it still has that pretty layered look. And then when you serve it this way, but then before drinking it, you stir it together to combine all the ingredients to get a beautifully flavored coffee. So I have the melange here. Let me stir it together. Comes layered for that beautiful look, but in order to drink it, you have to stir all the layers of honey, milk, and espresso together. I like that. I was expecting it to have an overpowering honey flavor, but I think that's the beauty of the Acacia honey. It's very mild tasting, so though there's a hint of honey, it's not bad. In fact, it's actually very delicious. So I would definitely make this drink again. Highly recommend it, especially if you want to impress somebody with such a beautiful drink. It's really not difficult to make, even though it looks like it is. So I have all 3 flavors of scones here. So let me give each of them a try. They're all absolutely delicious and unique in their own way. I love the plain one. It has a buttery, very light sweetness to it. So soft and fluffy. And the bacon is delicious too with that smoky flavor. I wish I could make it the traditional way with the pork cracklings, but I'm not able to find those here where I live. So someday, maybe I can travel to Hungary and try the real thing. And then the cheese. I think the cheese is my favorite. And that creates the flakiest of layers because those pockets of cheese create almost like croissant-like layers. And the strong Parmesan flavor in that is really good. I know Parmesan is not a traditional Hungarian cheese, but I just chose the strongest flavored cheese that I could think of that would work well in a baked good. So I highly recommend these. They would be delicious with a cup of coffee as breakfast, or really they would also be a delicious, almost like a dinner roll to go along with some soup or something savory to eat for dinner. So I hope you'll give this recipe a try. Let me know what you think of this series idea. I'm also going to be doing another series on the baked goods of afternoon tea from England. And those will be more of a consecutive series where I do 3 videos in a row on that. But this series on the coffee houses of Central Europe, I will be adding to periodically and peppering them throughout other videos that I will be doing over the next several months. If you would like another Hungarian recipe, I highly recommend the Non Plus Ultra cookies that I featured last year. Absolutely gorgeous, beautiful cookie, tastes delicious, and it's really not that hard to make. So make sure you watch that video next after this one, and I will see you next time.